name is Lorenzo De Francesco, and you're visiting my channel, which is dedicated to sculpture and spirituality. We are here at the Italian Cultural Center for a group show in commemorations of the Italian sculptor, or the 150 years of an Italian sculptor, Charles Morega, which came here in 1909 in this land of artistic desert, which was not really known what art was, and being this the characteristic of British Columbia at that time. So the show is a group show in conjunction with the Sculpture Society, and it's curated by Dr. Angela Clark, that had the imaginations and the insight of putting together a show of sculptures like this. And also in conjunction support with the Italian Cultural Center, which seems to have cut a niche or a path into this trend of art, recognitions of art, sculptures and painting. Very, very different from the attitudes of a Vancouver art gallery, private galleries and other galleries that tend to intellectualize art and talking a lot about curatorism and the outpouring of an intellectual attitude about art, which is the attitude of the Vancouver Art Gallery. In contrapositions with the attitude of private galleries, that all what they like to do is to sell the pieces. And so you see many, many galleries into the native art and all that, speculating on money. But this gallery is very unique, has become itself a center of recognition for an effort for artists in Vancouver to sculptures and painting. So here I am showing one of my latest work, which is called Flower in Balance. This piece is probably 37 inches tall and is made of absolute black basalt and green grayish granite at the top as a stem. This basalt has a shape of a vase where flowers or leaves coming out, supporting structures of unbalanced roundish shapes, and the whole thing is a pointer to, even though all the shapes are asymmetric and seems chaotic and seems out of balance, in contradictions with the sense of gravity and in contradictions with the sense of doing sculptures in a manner that is harmonious, this pointed out an harmony without harmony, an harmony against harmony, or a harmony that is not based on a visual effect. It actually contradicts that principle and trying to find his own harmony in being non harmonious. So what inspired me on this piece, which this is a study for a larger version. This is just a smaller version. What inspired me to do that is the considerations and realizations. What is balance? Even as you notice that balance here, for example, it still exists even when shapes and forms are out of the center. But there is an invisible thread, which it is the gravity, center gravity, that runs and holds all the forms and shapes apparently going out of balance, out of equilibrium. And that in itself is somewhat an interpretation of this sculpture. But there is a little bit more on that. And what it is more of this is the fact that in an individual life, in a person's life, in the events and emotions and circumstances of anyone, there is an imbalance due to contradicting events, sorrowfulness, and things that they are not really pleasing and easily to accept. And yet, there is this underlying constant line similar to the gravity of the physical realm that holds the human being. So while the human suffers and goes through into a sense of contractions and a sense of incompleteness, seeking to be liberated out of those restrictions, there is an underlying root that keeps the individual together. So the human can find relief in a place of considering himself or realizing himself to be a being. And that being, in a way, being the essence of this human, is the underlying gravity as in the sculptures. Without that, the identifications and beliefs that all the events, all the sorrowfulness and all the thinking mind, he is oneself, he is the identifications with, it becomes really sorrowful. It becomes very difficult to live a life of peace, harmony, and consistent equilibrium. So when that is lost, we call that suffering. And when suffering comes in, because there is no other point of view to look at the events and circumstances, we into this jail of the mind, which gets obsessed about emotions and suffering. So why am I saying all this? Why is that important to me and maybe important to others? Is because believing to be the apparent forms, believing to be the apparent thinking process, the apparent body, the apparent mind, we trapped ourselves and we restrict ourselves from the infinity and the vastness of being a being, and living and moving away from the restrictions of humanity, of the physical gravity, of the physical immediate experience. So when we cut that off, this identification, so be the thinker and the doer, we are free to think and to do without oppressions and without restrictions. Thank you so much for visiting my channel and for your patience and listening to my little blog. Thank you so much.